So, the Mamar Hey. The name of something has to do with that which is special about it. V'lo meshutav shabo, not something which is common with other things. Kvar is kind of the verb shemaral. We already mentioned words of maral. Shabir psichas Mesechus Shabbos b'mlechos otzah. Rishon Miral and Maral. This commentary Mesechus Shabbos talks about why Shabbos begins with mlechos otzah. Do mishum de'ein mlechos otzah noheges b'yontif. Because otzah doesn't apply to yontif, so it makes Shabbos unique. So therefore, since Shabbos is uniquely defined by otzah, that's why it starts with otzah. Maral actually gives other reasons as well. But be that as it may, but kavanu kana. The meaning is as follows, like as we mentioned. Shashem Shabbos misyachisu yosem yichod shabo. The name Shabbos relates more to that which is special about Shabbos. Shabbos means to desist. What is the special desisting of Shabbos? Shum lechos otzah. Me'asher sham melachos, as opposed to melachos, asher meshutim b'hem mishtatev, where it joins in my mikroi kodesh b'chlal with other mikroi kodesh with other yom tovim. And if, from all of the thread, the spool of the happenings of Shalpurkan Yavan, of the redemption of Yavan, Loni Krashmo, Moed HaPurkan Azekim Chanukah, the name which we could have given, they could have given many names, but the name we give it is Chanukah. So there must be Haresham Yuchad Asher B'Moed Hazeh. What's unique about this Yontif is the concept of chinuch, which we find in Chanukah. This is a way to understand it. There's a quote from a pasuk. Davar shilach Hashem, that says in the pasuk Aleph Dal Nun Yud, Yaakov nafal Yisrael. Okay, so Davar shilach Adokoi b'Yaakov nafal Yisrael. Pirush Chachamim, Davar shilach b'Yaakov. What's this Davar which is sent to Yaakov? Zegid Anosha. Refers to the prohibition of Gid Anosha. V'nafa b'Yisrael, it fell on Army Yisrael. Shepashat Yisur b'Chol Yisrael. Not only did it apply to Yaakov and his children, but eventually was expanded to the totality of the Jewish people. Chulim per Gid Anosha. So it would seem, Ein kan shum nekuda nosefes al guf advarim dvarim b'parasha. What is this medrash, this chazal, explaining more than it says in the psukim themselves in Parshas Vayishlach, this past week's parsha. It says that he was limping on his thigh. That's why the Jews don't need the Gid Anosha. Mahir Harbusa, what's the chiddush? What's the novel idea? Shepashat Isur Gid Anosha b'Chol Yisrael, family Shar Isurim, that Gid Anosha extended to all of Am Yisrael. Why is that different than any other prohibition which extends to all of Am Yisrael as well? So in order to understand the unique stress which Chachamim are putting on this, we have to preface Sugya Perkan de Brachos. What does it say in first parak of Brachos? Very famous Sugya. Avram over Basei. If you call Avraham by the name Avram, you transgress mitzvah say. It's not one of the Torah mitzvahs. But the point is that it's inappropriate. Okay? The same thing with Sarah as well. If you call Sarah Sarai, the same thing applies. Well, okay, but in any event, that's not the point. It says, El Me'ata Kor Yisrael Yaakov Achinami. So maybe you can't call Yisrael Yaakov anymore because his name was changed. No, Shani Hasam Nahadrika. No, there the pasuk calls him Yaakov even after his name was changed to Yisrael. So therefore, we can continue calling him Yaakov. The Chazin Mikan, so here you see here the Yeshavdel between Hashem Shavram and Hashem Yaakov. There's a difference between the change of name of Avram, the change of name of Yaakov. The Shinui Shmo Shel Avram, Harehu Amoda Shmo Chadosh Mekom Shel Achadeh. Avram's new name supplanted his old name, took its place. Yaakov's name Yisrael is an additional name. It didn't supplant the name, it didn't change the name, it's an additional name. What is the inner essence of this distinction? In the Shinui Hashem, which emerges from the deeds of the Avos. Sharsho, its root is na'ut, is embedded b'mekoro shel Shinei Shem Yaakov, in the source of the change name to Yaakov. Mekor Shinei Shmo shel Yaakov v'nitzachon ala ish ne'avakim ha'ada lo zashachar. The source of the change of Yaakov's name to Yisrael is the wrestling match which he had until morning with this Malach of Esav. B'shato lo haya nitzachon hazeh sholem. At that time, it was not a complete victory because Yaakov was wounded. Only later on, when he comes to Shechem, Yaakov came perfected or whole again to Shechem. But at the time of the wrestling match itself, it wasn't Sholem. This imperfect victory, or lack of completion of the victory, incomplete victory, is unique to Yaakov Avinu. When Avram fought, whoever he had to fight, when Yitzchok fought, whoever had to fight, really didn't fight that much, fought the Plishtim, I guess one could say. But in any event, when they fought, their victory was complete. So obviously Yaakov seems to fall short. So this arouses a very important question. Yaakov is considered to be the pinnacle of the Avos. Avraham and Yitzchok were preparatory to Yaakov. Avraham, Chesed, Yitzchok, Gevura, Yaakov, the combination of the two Tiferes. So if that's the case, how could it be that by the most perfect of the Avos, Nimtza Yitzchok and Bil Tishon, we have an imperfect victory? Amito Shadavar, in truth, Yeshkan Omek Lichad. There is a special depth here. Several times we have reiterated how there came about the unique quality of every of. Until the three-ply cord was completed by Yaakov. That since through him it was completed, this chut hamishulash, this three-strand cord, which will not be severed. He is called the Shalim because he made the cord unbreakable. Until the cord was breakable, he made the cord unbreakable. That's why, says Rav Hutner, he's called the Shalim Shabavos. And he explained this more specifically in Sukkah, but Pachad Yitzchok elsewhere. And this is the summary, synopsis. Avram Avinu was the first ger, first one to discover Hashem and convert to being whatever it was called, not a Jew, an Ivri, a Hebrew, whatever it was called. Yitzchok is the first one to be FFB, right? To be born holy. Yaakov, his children, his progeny, were all Yirei V'Shleimin. They're all complete. Chazal expressed themselves. Lo Avram she'etzamini Shmuel. Not like Avram, from whom came Yishmael, v'lo Yitzchok she'etzamini menu Esav. Not like Yitzchok from Esav came. Ayde Yaakov nishtalei shachut shel kedushas avos. Because till Yaakov, there wasn't possible to be mitaso shlema. How so? Because it wasn't a three-stranded rope. In order that the rope should not break, meaning that all the progeny will be holy, you have to have the three strands intact. Avram had his unique milah. Yitzchak has unique milah, but the unique milah of Yaakov is the three-stranded rope is not going to break quickly, meaning, in this case, mitaso shlema. All of his children are going to be like I don't know, frum is the right word, but they're all going to be Yirei V'Shleimin. Okay? Madrega Shleimusa Shel Yaakov. What is the Shleimus of Yaakov? He menias nituko shel achut shel kedushas Yisrael. It's not that there's a qualitative advantage of Yaakov over Avraham and Yitzchok. It's more of a technical thing. In other words, Avram and Yitzchok, Yaakov, they're all great. And Yaakov is not greater than the other ones. But he had a technical advantage, which was that Mitasu Shlema. From here on in, Am Yisrael is ensured of its future, that there's going to always be a Jewish nation. Till now, it was iffy. It could go either way. The cord was still capable of being broken. Now the cord is complete. It can't be broken.
Do we have, just in theory, we have Yeridas Adoros starting from Adam or Avram, such an idea?
Yeridas Adoros starts from Moshe.
It starts from Moshe, okay.
Starts from Moshe, not from Avram. Again, I'm not sure. The Madrega Shleimus Yaakov Shleimus Yaakov B'Menias Nituko Shalachut Shekush Yisrael. That string can never be severed. By the Chazinon, we understand that we see that Yidei Hamaraso Shel Esav, by Esav becoming a mumar. B'Kiddush Dafiches Korean Yisrael mumar. You know, it's interesting. There's a difference in halacha between Esav and Yishmael. Yishmael was not considered to be Jewish. Again, Hebrew, whatever you want to call him at the time. Esav was a Jew. It was Yisrael mumar. That's what Esav is called. But by his becoming a mumar, Yotzei min haklal. He was divorced from the chosen nation. Vilumin Yaakov Elach, but that Esav was the last one who had an exit strategy, who could get out. After that, Yaakov Kol Masei Amar Shabon, any type of apostasy which happens afterwards, Ein Moili Mafsid Shem Yisrael. You're stuck. You can't lose it. Once you have it, that's it. No getting out of it. Yisrael Afa Bishchata Yisrael. Jew is still a Jew. Zoe Daglas Hashlemus Kedushas Ha'avhus Shel Yaakov Avinu. This is the level of Kedusha which Yaakov Avinu added to the mix, which is there's no such thing as getting out of it anymore. That's it. Esav was the last one to get out. But specifically because of this perfection, there comes about an imperfection and incompleteness that as a result there are going to be Jews who are apostates. In other words, as he's about to say next line, were we not to have this concept of Yisrael, even though since it's still Yisrael, so then there would be no internal problematic people. They would all be no longer Jewish. In other words, a reform, conservative, atheist, whatever they are, they wouldn't be Jewish anymore. So we'd have no problems. We'd just slice them off. They'd slice themselves off. But it doesn't work that way anymore. Since Yaakov Avinu, everybody who sins is still part and parcel of Am Yisrael. So we have Dafka because of Yaakov, not only do we have a concept of Am Yisrael, but we have a concept of a Mumar Yisrael Mumar as a result. The call Yisrael Shehem, because and now Chodesh Shehem here, any Jew who commits an act of apostasy, well, I'm sorry, we're not for that thing. Any Jew who commits an act of apostasy, male inspiration automatically would have been separated, but not saying obeyed bris. It wouldn't be part of the covenant. Calls Machish the Bolama Fashel Mumaros Yisrael, and now we have a catch-22. Because Yaakov co-created the Zchut HaMishulash, because you can't sever the Kedusha, so then in Mele, there is always going to be a concept of a Mumar, which is the imperfection, so to speak, as part and parcel of the perfection, the flip side of the perfection. So therefore, Adayin to Omer, Bishlemu Zu Shel Yaakov Avinu, you're compelled to say, in Yaakov Avinu Shlemus, Ki Kakanosa, that which it fixed, Yikakalosa is also that which it ruined. They both come together. That is the dislocated sciatic nerve in Yaakov Avinu. In other words, that there's going to be a concept of a mumar in Am Yisrael. It's not an amputated limb. It's a dislocated limb. It's still part and parcel of the body. It's a pain. It's perhaps even more of a trouble than just having amputated. I don't think so, but you could look at it that way. But the point is that it's still there. It's still part of it. It's damaged.
He hasn't said what the mile is yet. I mean, you would think, okay, so it's better to sever them off. Why integrate them more?
He hasn't. That's correct. Ulemedim ono dover zeh medivri chachamim. Shepirshu dekra chachamim explain the puzzle. The vayar ki lo yacholo. The Malach saw he couldn't overcome Yaakov. So what did he do? He touched, he affected in the generation of oppression, pogroms, of persecution. These are the people who are going to undergo the temptations and tests of having to accept a different religion at the time of persecution. And the truth is that any gzeira at the time of a shmad is a gzeira avara das. That's why we have a halacha which says that at the time of shmad, even if they tell you you have to change your shoelaces, because Jews used to wear red shoelaces and they wanted them to wear black shoelaces, so you had to give up your life rather than change your shoelaces. Right? At a time which is not a Shas Shmad, it's only the big three which you have to give your life for. At a time of Shas Shmad, because it's being done to be Mavir al Das to get people out of their Judaism, so therefore you have to give your life no matter what. Okay, that's the essence of a Shas Shmad. It is a time of Havara al Das. United Table Mam Rishon explains it earlier. So from this you learn that this location, which is the imperfection, the shortcoming in the victory against the Malach of Esav, it's about those people who are not Oimei bin Nisoyel. They fell. At the time of the Spanish expulsion, we know most, if I recall correctly, of the Jews did remain in Spain and did convert. And most of them, the Moranos are a small exception, converted completely. They didn't keep any of their Judaism intact. So we see that there is this concept of Darsha Shmad, where the people will be tested and many people will fall in the test. So, but it's only temporary. It's only until the sun shines. When the sun shines, it heals Yaakov, and then he can be a shalom afterwards. Klomar. What does it mean? And historically speaking. When those who attempt to sever the three-strand cord will desist, then the perfection will be true perfection. Because that perfection of Yaakov, which is the incapacity to be severed, will no longer be a cause that there will be within the camp those who want to sever the rope. In other words, the Shemesh, which represents obviously great illumination, when it comes, it's going to cause this problem to go away. Because the people who shmad is as a result of the lack of illumination in the world. Once there's illumination, then everything is going to be healed. And since the source of the name Yisrael, Yaakov, which is given to Yaakov, is his victory on Esav's Malach, and Avakimo rested with him. And Yisrael, even though he sins, remains a Yisrael. Yaakov, because this is the salient feature of Yaakov. Okay, therefore, Kozman Shadaina to Omer Ba Bishlemuzu Bitsad Ma Ki Takanasa Kakulasa as long as you're still going to have to say, in some way, that the Yaakov aspect of Yaakov impedes the Yisrael aspect of Yaakov. In other words, the shleimus of Yaakov, which means that people are Yisrael v'Yishchot Yisrael, means that the Yisrael who is Chayte is still part of Am Yisrael. That means that the Yaakov is limiting and is preventing the Yisrael from being perfect. And that's going to be true throughout history. There's never going to be a perfect Yisrael because there's always going to be Yaakov. The Ma'ila of Yaakov, again, Takanoso, Hikakuloso. So Akate, still there, till you reach that Shemesh, that great light, Yisrael can't eradicate Yaakov. Then Yisrael el Hashem sheitan l'shoresh. So what is Yisrael then? If it doesn't apply, what's the point of it? So he says a fascinating thing. He says it's the name given to the root, al shma shel hatzmicha hasida. It is a prediction. It is a statement of what the future is going to bring. At some point, there's going to be Yisrael. But right now it's dormant. Right now, I don't know if dormant is the right term, right? Right now it's still, dormant. It's not, it can't be complete until we have that ultimate light, which makes that shleimus come to us. Till then, we're stuck. That's why we go back to Yaakov. Until the sun rises, and the dislocated thigh goes back to its place. We can't get rid, so to speak, of the name Yaakov. Now, we still haven't explained the name Chanukah, but it's not up to there yet.
Does he note, did I miss it, that he notes the significance of it, the Gid Nashe being near the bris?
He doesn't note that, but I think you're right. That's an obvious point.
Okay.
Very good. This is where we can sense the stress which Chachamim gave us. Shepirshu explained, Ki davar sholach b'Yaakov v'nafal b'Yisrael. Something was sent to Yaakov and fell in Yisrael. Hanu Gid Anoshe sh'nispashit Yisrael b'chol Yisrael. Gid Anoshe, which extended to all of Am Yisrael. Havlota he bekan Yisuro b'chol Yisrael. The Isser is throughout Yisrael, Kol Yisrael Dafka, v'lo b'chelek mehem. It's a problem throughout the Jewish people, not just in part of them. V'rabusa b'zehi, and the Chiddush in this is, Sh'afabi she'sura shel Gid Anoshe, even though the prohibition of Gid Anoshe, Hana yerachat kub gufo shel Yaakov, is in the thigh which is embedded in Yaakov's body. And these are the ones who impede upon the Kriya Shem Yisrael, according to the reaching that level. They are the ones Yaakov who made us go back to the state of Yaakov. Don't think it's just them. In other words, you might say it's only the heretics which are the problem. I'm not a problem. Only heretics is the problem. The Reformed, the conservatives, the atheists, they're the problem, not me. It's true that they cause a problem for the totality of Jewish people. I'm not part of the problem. I'm part of the solution. It's just that I haven't been able to resolve the issue. No, says our brother, that's not the shot. The Nafal B'chol Yisrael means the influence of Yisrael Mumar, Yisrael is Nishpashin Ra'al Vam Yisrael. It affects us as well. It doesn't just affect them, it affects the totality of the nation. Since they're part of the nation, they impact on the entire nation, not just on themselves for themselves. The reality of this breach, sense of Am Yisrael, the Gid Anoshe Pachad Isura b'chol Yisrael. So he says, yes, Davar Shalach b'Yaakov. This is something which was, so to speak, was sent to Am Yisrael, to Yaakov. But don't think it's just the Yaakov people, the people who are stuck as part of Am Yisrael, that are the issue, but it's Kol Yisrael who have the issue. So what does that mean? Now he has to explain that. When was the first massive effort to convert the Jewish people? Was at the time of the persecution of the Greeks. Till then, nobody tried to convert us. In time first Mikdash, we did very well on our own, right? Being over Avodah Zarah and all sorts of good stuff. But it was an external influence. The Nebuchadnezzar had no Havamin to convert the Jews. Achashverosh had no Havamin to convert the Jews. Who's the first ones who come to convert the Jews? The Greeks. Even the Romans didn't try to convert the Jews. That was the unique quality of the Greeks. We know that to be the case. V'uda zuhi sharshel shachirish, and this is the root of the chirish, shanu motzi begolus yavan l'rishana, which you find the first time in Golus Yavan as inyan hamis yavnin, the concept of the Hellenists. There's a famous line of their beautiful line. Hariyikoidim, prior to that, lo matanu mitzmatrim. There are no Egyptists, or Misbavlim, or Babylonians, or Misashrim, or Assyrianists, the Chadoima. Only Hellenists. That was the first concept of somebody who was Jewish, who was influenced, or rather wanted to be bring in the other culture into Judaism. A Hellenist is somebody who was not Greek. They were Jewish, but they wanted the Hellenistic influence. And they were pursuing the Hellenist way of life from within Judaism, from within Yisrael. Abayin Shili Sukkah, Shiskino Takonos, Bechiluk HaMishmoros, Shemamikdash Mishum HaMisyavnim Halolu. They made, because of the Hellenizers, they made all sorts of takonos in terms of the Mishmaros. I'm not sure why this is so germane, but Bilga was a daughter of one of the Mishmaros who became a Hellenist, or at the time Mishmar became Hellenistic, and therefore they made a whole bunch of takonos in terms of the relationship of Bilga to the rest of them. I know what he points, but why exactly he points it out, but this notion of Hellenizers has to have some hint, some root in Maisa Avos, because Maisa Avos Siman Labonim. Maisa Avos Siman Labonim. Simonam Shagzeres Hashmad. So the siman of the Gzeres Hashmad Alabonim we already saw. That this kind of the sign of the decree of Shema, it's in this episode of the wrestling. So therefore here we also have to find Mekamakor Tsaras Hamisyavin Dorosein. We have to find the source for Hellenists. Okay, here I think this is Rav Hutner's own Chiddush, which he's about to say. Where is the source for Hellenists in the Maisa of the wrestling of Yaakov with Esav's son? What's the where is the source of the difficulty which we have with the Hellenist anchored in Maisa Avos? It's in Yaakov's limp. The fact that Yaakov, the damage is this Dor Shel Shmad. The limp is the Hellenist. Also the redemption of Yavan, Tarvayu Isabo must have two aspects to it. Purkan is Yavan, the redemption from the decrees that Yavan made, but also Purkan Mina Kolcham Shamas Yavnim. It's got to have some antidote to the Hellenists, not just to the Greek decrees against the Jewish people, the persecution, but also to Hellenism. Where is in Chanukah? Where is in this holiday the allusion to that redemption from the Misyavnim? But here it depends. Issues change based on the topic. To the poor coming Zerusel Shel Yavan. in the redemption of the Xeros from the decrees of the Greeks. There, HaKavanah Shis Batla Tzor Shel Zero. The difficulty of the decrees was nullified. What are we going? What's the redemption from the power of the Hellenists? It's not that we no longer have that anguish from their power over us. The Hellenists were never eradicated. Yaakov keeps on limping through the entire Golus until the Shemesh comes, which is the redemption, right? The ultimate illumination. Until that comes, Yaakov limps. Throughout the night of Golus, there remains this limp until the ultimate or comes and heals it. So we never got rid of the Misyavnim. It's an ongoing issue from the time of the Greeks on till today. But whenever some Jews, including ourselves, become acculturated, that's an aspect of Misyavnus. Now, of course, there's Yaftal Kim Yefes, Yishkom Bali Shem. The ways in which other cultural aspects or cultural aspects of other cultures can be used in a positive way. But whenever they use it in a negative way, is as the Hellenists did, that is Yaakov Yaakov still limping on his thigh.
Sorry, I missed the last point. Why is limping Hellenistic?
Because it means there's no the capacity to go. Let's take the metaphor. The capacity to go to Derech Hashem on the Mesilas Yesharim is hobbled by the limp. You can't. Am Yisrael cannot stride strongly and confidently in the road it's supposed to go because it's being hobbled by the Hellenists and their spiritual descendants.
Yeah, but if you say that all the negative events that happen to Am Yisrael are reflected within this event with Yaakov,
not all. Because myself and Labani means over the course of all three of those. But since Yaakov corresponds to Golus, so then what do you want to bring? Obviously, yes, there are going to be Golus aspects in Yaakov, which you won't find in the other Avos. So what do you want to ask?
You only have so many options to pick from as symbolic correlations, right? So okay,
that's true.
The limp is Hellenistic. Well, I have another 50 things to pick that happened to us negatively that I'm looking for. I'm just saying in theory, right? So he picked specifically the limp is Hellenistic, and I just thought, why not say the limp is, something beyond negative Hellenistic influence. It's a negative.
There's lots of stuff. There's lots of stuff in the rest of Yaakov Avinu's life which has to do with myself and Labani. Lots of things continue to go wrong in Yaakov Avinu's life. The point which he's making is that since it's connected to the Dor Shel Shmat, and the first Dor Shel Shmat, that is the Medrash, right? That he was the Sar Shel Esav was able to affect Dor Shel Shmat. And the Dor Shel Shmat, the first Dor Shel Shmat, not the first generation of people who fought against Jews. Amalek fought against Jews much earlier, but they weren't trying to shmad the Jews. They were just trying to kill us, right? Yeah. So the first Dor Shel Shmat is the Greeks.
Okay.
And so Putner is saying, okay, let's follow this further. If this represents the Dor Shel Shmat, let's look at the process, and we see there's a tremendous symbolism in the fact that afterwards he's limping until the sun comes. Trying to think. I can't. Obviously, there are different nights in Yaakov Avinu's life. There's the night of where he slept at Parshas Vayetze, and this night here, or probably all the nights in Yaakov Avinu's lifetime have some connection to Golus in some way, shape, or form. But this one, Rav Hutner is saying, is because of the association Dor Shel Shmat is linked to this idea. But you know what? Even this is, let's say, this is Rav Hutner's drush, right? and maybe you don't have the Jewish, you might not like, but the idea is true, nevertheless. In other words, there was no concept of somebody trying to pursue the culture of the other nation until the Greeks came along. The other cultures were not attractive. What's attractive? Greek culture is attractive. And that already goes back to Parshas Noach, right? Yafta Elokim Yefes, right? Yefes it's beautiful. It does have an attraction. Chochma Yavanis is Chochma. It is wisdom. So the culture wars begin with Hellenists. This is true regardless of whether you like the limp parable or not. You have to accept it. But the idea is true nevertheless.
So the question is quickly. So Avraham, we only say Avraham. We can't say before. He doesn't have two names. It was transformed. It means there was some shleimus that happened with Avraham. But yes. with Yaakov, he still has a messianic name that we go back and forth with.
Right.
Whatever the shleimus for Avraham is. And the other one, does he mention maybe later?
No. Shleimus Avraham is Avraham becomes Avraham on Goyim, right? What's Avraham on Goyim? Because he becomes the model for all monotheistic nations, hopefully for the entire world. That remains. We're all, as they say, we're all Abrahamic faiths, right? Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And we hope that spreads everywhere.
We don't say that that's possible. That's part of Google also. So how do you, by saying Abraham and only saying Abraham, we're saying there's a shleim where it's been completed, but this inyan of Abraham has not been completed. We're still fulfilling this.
No, but there's no Avram, right? This mission is now still a mission of Avram of Avinu all time. There's no mission of Avram anymore. Avram was his initial mission to get from A to B, but now when he's at B, he never goes back to A. He's no longer somebody who has to, who is being tested in the way that he was tested initially. Now his test is to go out and spread, so to speak, the gospel which HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him. Now he's Avram, going to go out and do what you were supposed to do. You demonstrate that you're worthy of that. Whereas Yisrael and Yaakov, it's very different. There is no, Yaakov doesn't represent, and Yisrael doesn't represent something about going forth. It represents something internal, and internally there is a dynamic struggle which goes on as a struggle, not as a mission throughout history.
The last. Yeah, I get it. Does he mention Dafka why eating is a zecher? Eating the Gidanashi. The mitzvah is a zecher to all of this is that you shouldn't eat the Gidanashi. Right. Does he talk about it? Why the mitzvah manifests in eating?
Not here. Doesn't speak about here, but I think that the message is that to remember. It's interesting. I don't know why it's not one of the seven zechiros, but it seems like there is some powerful message in remembering that this went wrong, and therefore, for all time, we have a shortcoming. It's just on a very quick digression. I don't know if you saw the major news in the Jewish world. The major news in the Jewish world was that now they have established a ranch somewhere in Australia, which is made up completely of animals which are descendants from a mating of two ben pekuos. A ben pekua is an animal which was found alive within a shechted animal. The halacha is an animal which is found alive within a shechted animal. All parts of the animal may be eaten, even the chelev, even the gid hanoshe. Now, if the halacha is also, if you mate two ben pekuos, a male and a female, then all of their progeny for all time, as long as they only mate with each other, are also completely permitted, including the gid hanoshe, including all the fats. So now, for the first time in history, they have established somewhere in Australia a farm, a ranch, which is completely made up of ben pekuos. So now, perhaps this is.
Going along with the Yitzchok, this is a Siman Geula then. This is a Siman Geula.
I think so. right?
I don't think that is a data that there's still a process going on. Yisrael and Yaakov.
Yeah, but this is evidently the heter for the Gita Noshe, which is coming about, may be a harbinger of the ultimate perfection which we're accomplishing, which will no longer have this issue. Who knows? Anyway, somebody really improved this idea. What?
Why are they trying to do that? What's the benefit of? I mean, the Gita Noshe is not like a desirable.
Yeah, what the Gita Noshe does is it eliminates for Jews the capacity to have filet mignon. Filet mignon and rump steak, all those good steaks, are destroyed by the presence of the Gita Noshe. It means basically for Jews, you can only have filet mignon hamburger, right? Or sirloin steak hamburger. But if the Gita Noshe is permitted, so then you get all those great cuts which only Goyim could enjoy till now.
This is the only food they should have in the mikdash because this represents the geula.
Yes. Okay. Anyway, the Beis Hamikdash, those parts will go to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so it's different. But in any event, be as it may, let's finish up here. It's a fascinating idea. You should look it up. I got an email on it recently. So he says, the Ela she'akavana ki b'purkan hachashmonoim mishultono shel Yavon. So what did we get at the time of our redemption from the Greeks? If we didn't get anything for the Hellenists, we did get something for the Hellenists. What did we get? There came into effect and there were brought down new powers of preservation and protection. A power of strength of mind, strength of character, of strength of will, to withstand all sorts of tests. Which come to us through the Hellenists, the Kol Adoros flows mine in all generations and all times. The Chol Orosav Shupurkan Yavon, and all the lights of the redemption from the Greeks, Doros, were embedded for generations Ayidei Moed Chanukah, by the Moed of Chanukah. Klomar, meaning, Purkan Zemi Shibud Hamisyavnim, this redemption from the Shibud of the Hellenists, which is not complete, it's only partial. Hoya Bo Mishum Chinuch L'Doros. It's an education for generations. But it's not just education for generations. It's telling us that the battle against Hellenism has to be waged through chinuch. Chanukah means that the battle against Hellenism is a battle of education. Whose education is going to succeed? Is it going to be the Greek Academy or the Beis Medrash? Is it going to be the values which come from other places or our internal values? Chanukah is a lotion of chinuch not just because we were educated by the miracles of Chanukah to know that we have to fight the Hellenists, but because it tells us that we now have to strive to use that tool of chinuch. And I don't know when Rabbi Yehoshua ben Gamliel lived exactly, but it certainly was sometime around the Chanukah miracle, slightly thereafter. And it's not sure that it's not a coincidence that the whole notion of chinuch as a system starts shortly after the miracle of Chanukah. I have to go back and check precisely when. But this is the antidote to hisyavnus. That there should be a stronger chinuch for the kedusha. So this, the Chanukah gives us the capacity to, we're still limping, but to step or travel on this new road, which is going to have its own unique tests and its own unique pitfalls, which came about after the first Hellenists came on the scene. And this, we'll put their hands kind of cryptically, but the message was, you want to fight the Hellenistic trends within yourself, within the Jewish society. Each kid has to be educated appropriately so that when even when he becomes older, he doesn't deviate. It's a lifelong test. Yochanan Kohen Gadol became a Tzdoki B'Sof Yomov at the end of his days. So if you're not Tznacha Nochan Rapi Darko, you have no guarantee that Ki Gam Ki Asking Lilos and Rimenu. As it is, it has to be a lifelong process of chinuch. But the chinuch of Chanukah is the antidote to the hisyavnus of the misyavnim. So there are two aspects in Chanukah. There's the aspect of the redemption from the tzoros themselves, and the aspect of the redemption from the Hellenists. So obviously it's a much more difficult task to use Chanukah to rid ourselves of Hellenistic influences, and is to use Chanukah to celebrate the victory over the Greeks, because the victory over the Greeks took place. The victory over the Hellenists still hasn't taken place. And the way Chanukah is used in secular society today, it's almost a Hellenistic holiday in and of itself. But the idea is that in order to fight Hisyavnus, we have to mechanech ourselves. In order to mechanech ourselves, we have to make sure that we have an ongoing effort to find the derech in which to instill within ourselves those values with which each one of us, everybody's different, can be fight against the Hisyavnus and can remain lifelong in the path of Avodas Hashem, Derech Hashem, Al Taras HaKodesh, in the way it's supposed to be done.
Well, you're still saying abstract. So we're still being abstract. Lamaisa, and your personal opinion, Hellenistic refers to what? Do I can become very
okay. So first of all, Rav Hutner always is abstract. Rav Hutner is always about the inspiration of the event of learning the Pachad Yitzchok. It's not about Lamaisa. Rav Hutner is never about Lamaisa. It's always about the daher, the new insight which you get from learning the piece and the elegance with which it's written. That's how Pachad Yitzchok works. Okay, so let's get that clear to begin with. You understand what I'm saying? Pachad Yitzchok is an experience. It's not meant to tell you what to do further. That's up to you. Now, having that as a given, which is important to understand, Rav Hutner. To tell you, sometimes when I used to learn Rav Hutner, I used to think, when I learned, wow, this is so amazing, so great, so fantastic, and afterwards, I would think back and think, what exactly did I get out of it, like you're asking me now. But at the moment, it had that great impact of inspiration, which is worth it. Now, what is Hellenism in everybody's life is different, because each person has different temptations which are going to be attacks on their value. In other words, for one person to study, say, science, right, is not going to attack their core values. For another person, science will attack their core values. So therefore, you have to have chinuch for that person, that he knows that science is not in contradiction, conflict with Judaism, but it's something which can be harmonized with Judaism. For one person, baseball is going to be a Hellenistic experience, because you get into you get into baseball and you get into the entire culture of whatever takes place in stadiums and whatever fans do, and that is a foreign influence, which then causes a person to become more coarse. Another person just watches baseball for entertainment.
Yeah, that's great. So he's not saying that he's not saying that Mada is Hellenistic. He's saying that which makes you limp.
Yes, that which makes you limp. That which takes away from your derech, from the capacity to focus on what you should be doing for Avodas Hashem and for Avas Hashem and Yiras Hashem. And for every person, it's going to be different. There's no two people going to have the same difficulties with this. That's, I think, my opinion. Obviously, sure, other people tell you that, no, not Rav Hutner, but probably, but other people tell you, no, it's all secular studies and all secular pursuits, so all Hellenism, but we don't believe that.
My Rebbe in Eretz Yisrael was the Talmud Muvhak of Rav Hutner, and he helped found the building and stuff, and he would tell his stories. He said, don't ever repeat me, I'll get in trouble, but he said Rav Hutner used to come and he would show from around, and he would take him out of Seder, and he would have my Rav in Israel, he would drive Rav Hutner to Prospect Park, and he would sit on the grass for 2 hours and stare at the ducks. People would think it's Bittul Torah. No, these are stories you tell us. He said, don't tell anybody.
Rav Hutner was a very, very strong, I think everybody knows this by now. Rav Hutner was a very, very strong fan of opera. Did you know that?
No.
No. It is more or less common knowledge. He was I don't know if he went to operas, but he was a very big fan of listening to operas. So operas, from somebody's perspective, could represent, the ultimate Greek experience. But again, everything is what you do with it and whether you control it or it controls you. If you can use culture, L'Shem Shamayim, use many things L'Shem Shamayim, but they can use you and take you out of L'Shem Shamayim. So that's why chinuch is not so much the daf gemara which you learn, or the yedias which you pick up. That's not called chinuch. That's called limud. Chinuch means to give. Sorry.
I don't mean as a chutzpah, but it's a good interpretation of Rav Hutner thinking, that he's influenced from his Rebbe Rav Kook, who would say a similar thing. No. Yes,
but not just Rav Kook. The Alter from Slabodka would also, depending on the Talmud, the Alter from Slabodka would also be someone who would tell each person that they have their own specific niche and koichos which they have to develop, and that was why making of a gadol was banned, because making of a gadol had Rabban Kotler reading romantic Russian literature, which the Alter from Slabodka, I don't know if he would have encouraged directly, but certainly that was something which he would have, not necessarily have protested as severely as other Rosh Yeshiva or Mashgichim, because he believed that every person has to find their own derech and work on it accordingly. So it's not just Rav Kook. I think the Baalei Musar in general had a much more open perspective on what's important in order to develop one's Avodas Hashem, and it was more expansive, and which is why Rabbi Sol Salanter used Benjamin Franklin, as the Sefer Cheshbon HaNefesh. But you're right. Certainly, Rav Kook is also a paradigm of being Mekadesh the Chol as opposed to being Mechalo the Kodesh, all that kind of stuff. Yes, he probably got a lot from Rav Kook. All right, Baisai, you have to tell me what you want to learn next week. More Pachad Yitzchok?
I liked it.
I liked it also.
Okay, well, next week we'll do Pachad Yitzchok Chanukah, right? Next week is actually the first day of Chanukah, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll do Pachad Yitzchok again.
I might be out at a family party, so
Okay, well, this is recording. You can always pick it up on YouTube afterwards.
Ah, great. You're gonna post it on YouTube?
It posts automatically. Yeah.
Oh, I'm on YouTube. Dang it.
Yes, you are. Okay. Have a good night, Rabbi Sai.
Thank you so much, Ravi.
Thank you. Goodbye.